Thanks for watching. I'm Prerna Agarwal, Technical Product Owner for the Guardian. Today we'll be giving you Guardian update of Sprint 57, which lasted from Jan 22nd to Feb 2nd. So just a quick overview of the agenda. We'll be looking at the Guardian roadmap. We'll also be talking about the issues that we tackled in Sprint 57, which lasted from Jan 22nd to Feb 2nd. Then we'll be giving you a short demo on Sprint 57. We'll be looking ahead of week of Feb 5th, which is Sprint 58. We'll also be talking about the issues that we'll be tackling in Sprint 58. We'll be talking about the upcoming releases. We'll also be talking about giving you some of the ways that you can either submit bugs or policy requests to various different channels. So just a quick overview of the Guardian roadmap. We are working on some of the CDM policies development, which is ACM 0006, 0002, 0001. And then we are also working on the Fireblocks integration. We are working on the support externally controlled DIDs with verification method so that you can actually configure your own verification method to control your DIDs. So in Sprint 57, we committed to 63 story points and we overcommitted and delivered 76 story points, which includes major milestones, which is 1885 business user policy development, Schemas MVP, 1930, which is geographic raster imagery support in Guardian, 2649 aligning digital MRV specification for standardizing project comparison, 2853 and 2852 implements the AI search and guided search. Then we also merged a new UI, which is 2841 and 2030, which is implementing our discontinuing policy workflow. Let's look at Sprint 57 demo. So the first ticket what we'll be looking at is 1885, which is business user policy development, Schemas MVP. Business analysts and or sustainability consultants generally are not sufficiently technical to quickly comprehend and become competent users of Guardian policy editing UI. Although JSON is the most functional way to construct Guardian policies, there may be more functional, familiar ways for this category of users to at least start the development of the policies. So the ultimate goal of this initiative would be to integrate traditional business tool and rules validation capabilities to automatically compile policies. To demo this, what we have done is we have implemented 4 scenarios in this particular milestone where you can import the schemas to a policy, or you can export the schemas from already imported policies. And then in addition to that, you can also just import the schemas from the Excel file, and you can also export the schemas from the Excel file. Now let's look at this. So the first scenario is we'll be actually exporting schemas from the policy to an Excel sheet. Now, as you can see, we have IREC 4 and Vera VM 0007 policies being listed out here. And then here, in order to export or import, you have 2 options in the hamburger, where you see export schemas to Excel and import schemas from Excel. So first, we'll be exporting the schemas of IREC 4 to an Excel sheet. Now I would export this. Once it is exported, you create an Excel file is generated, and this is how the Excel file looks like of IREC 4. Now as you can see, we have different schemas tabs, which is IREC facility, energy sources, production device, contact details. Now I would like to then create a new policy. I would just say new policy. And then once the policy is created, I would import those schemas of IREC 4 Excel sheet into this new policy. So it would the creating of the policy would take a bit of time because it just imports the system schemas. As you see, the policy is created. Now, in order to import, I would click on the hamburger and click on import schemas from Excel. I would import the Excel file, which was just exported. As you can see, you will see the schemas overview before importing. So importing of the Excel file to a policy would take a bit of time, depending on how many schemas you have it in the Excel sheet. So here you can see we have 8 schemas, which is actually being imported right now to a policy. So as you can see, the policy imported, and then you can see all the schemas also being imported, and you can see the schemas entry and see all the schemas of the new policy which was imported. You can also see what all the fields, and you can export this schema to an Excel sheet by clicking on export schema to an Excel. So I'm just importing IREC issue request, and as you can see, this is imported to an Excel file where you can see all the fields, field type, the mandatory, allowed mandatory answers, and all the related schemas to it. Now you can also import the schemas from an Excel file where you have an import from Excel. You again select that particular schema Excel file. When you import it, you can import to a policy. And then as you can see, we have the schemas overview, and you can import it to a policy from the schema section. Now there is one more thing where you have the schema generate Excel template. We have also added an Excel template so that just to understand what exactly you would need to create an Excel sheet for schema. You have schema name, you have sub-schema name, and enum name. So you can actually download this particular schema template from the schema section. So to get more detailed overview of this, we have actually added a very detailed documentation. So for that, you need to visit docs.hedera.com/guardian. And when you get there under standard registry, you will have import/export in Excel. You will have a detailed description of what I have just did a demo of. And you can see how to import, and if there are any issues or errors while importing, how to handle the errors, and how are that being described in our schema sheet. Then you also have a template, as I have shown that with this will be a template where you can actually list out or mention those schemas, and so that before you import, you can create that Excel sheet and then import it. You have all the parameters listed over here, which is allowed in the schema template before you do that. You also have the expression which can be listed out in the Excel sheet before you import, so that you can implement the calculation of the schemas if needed. Then you have an export. In addition to that, we also have all the APIs been listed, which would require to implement the import and export functionality in Excel. So the second ticket, what we'll be looking at is 2649, which is aligning digital MRV specification for standardizing project comparison. So currently in Guardian schemas, we are using different schema types such as string, integer, etc., which are used to define data scope and project comparison. But just to make our current project comparison much more standardized as per IWA, we need to refer to digital MRV specification, which can be found in this particular link. In the above spec document, we notice that we have an interesting attribute called property, which would be very useful comparing project in much more standardized manner. In order to implement this, what we have done is we have added a new schema type as property. So when you click on create a schema, and when you scroll down and click on add field, as you can see, you have a drop down of property. So now you can assign a property to every field as you describe, just to make it much more standardized. And when you do a project comparison, this will literally help you in giving the appropriate result. So when I click on this, you see all the properties are been listed here. This is actually been listed out as per the IWA. So you can do that when you create a schema, but in order to get more information about what does each property mean, we have added a documentation update, where you can just go under standard registry, and under that, under schemas subsection, you have property glossary, where you can actually understand what that particular type would be before you assign that schema field to a property. So the third ticket, what we'll be looking at is 2030, which is implement discontinuing policy workflow. So at present, all published policies are assumed to be active indefinitely. Their current version can be superseded by the new version, which can be considered to be a deprecation event, but there is no explicit way to officially state that the policy is no longer considered active. So in order to solve this, what we have done is, let me go to policies tab. And here, as you can see, I have actually already published IREC 2. Now, in order to make this policy as discontinued, now I will have an option of discontinue when I click on published. So just an FYI, just to note that this policies can only be discontinued if it is published. Unpublished policies cannot be discontinued. Now, when I click on discontinue, I have two options here to discontinue a policy. One is deferred and immediate. Deferred is I can actually select the date of when I want this policy to be discontinued, or I can also do an immediate discontinuing of the policy. Now, let me go with and first with deferred, and then I would just say, okay, I would just need 10 February, and then I can click on OK. But I would like to just do an immediate discontinuing of the policy. So I click on immediate and click on OK. Now, as you can see, once it is discontinued, it will be saying discontinue. And when you hover that up, it says discontinue date is Friday, Feb 9, 2024. Now, when I click on register, so the indication what you will get is this will be highlighted, the banner of the policy would be highlighted, and then you cannot do a migration, and the topics which are created after this, or the changes or the grids which are created after discontinuing will not be moved to hedera. So this is now in order to make this much more data specific, once you discontinue a policy, you also have an option of migrating data. So when, for example, if I want to migrate this data, I just created a trust chain of IREC2 completely, but this is getting discontinued. I just want to migrate this data to a similar policy or to a new version of the policy. What I would do is I would just go ahead and click on migrate data. So migrate data actually have six steps into it, where you can actually select the destination policy where you want to actually migrate the data to. And then you can also select the VP document, like the documents which you want to migrate from the source policy to the destination policy. You can select the VC documents which you want to migrate to. You can also select the schema, which are similar to both the policies, and then you can migrate that particular schemas from the source to destination. You can select the roles which you want to migrate from the source policy, and also the groups if that particular policy involves any group implementation. So once that is done, the data will all be migrated to that particular policy, the destination policy, and then you can just leave the discontinued policy and you will not lose the data. To get more information, you can go to our docs, which is docs.hedera.com/guardian/standard registry. Under that, you have a discontinuing policy workflow. You have a step-by-step process here, which I have just demoed it. Please have a look and let us know if you have any questions. You also have all the APIs related to the discontinuing policy, also with the migration data. So please have a look and let us know. So the last ticket, what we'll be looking at is to wait for one merging of new UI and search functionalities. As currently, Guardian UI is much more simpler and can be improved with great UI UX experience. In addition to this, we do not have standardized search for searching projects within Guardian instance. So in order to solve this, as you can see, we have actually enhanced our UI with the new front end, where you can see different tabs. Initially, it was like a top bar, but now we have implemented a side menu, and this is much more cleaner. In addition to this, we also have implemented a guided search and AI search. So when you just log in as a normal user other than the standard registry, you have a new functionality as search for policies. When you click on it, it will actually have two options, which is search with AI or guided search. This is similar to a chat GPT search. For example, if you want to just search for any of the policy, you can just type in and then you get the result. In it, if you just want to have a guided search, you can just respectively select on any of the methodology technology type, and then you get the list of the policies here. So this is just limited to your Guardian instance for now, but we will be actually also implementing a global search moving forward in future. So that's a quick demo on Sprint 57. So looking at Sprint 58, We are currently committing to 36 story points where we have implementation of 2885 AMS2J, 2678 support externally controlled DIDs with verification method keys in Guardian, Fireblocks integration, which is 1314, and we are also working on different methodologies of CDM, which is 2880, 2884, and 2882. Talking about the upcoming releases, our last release was on February 29, Friday 2024. February 2nd, 2024. Our next release will be on Thursday, February 29, 2024. So there are multiple ways to reach out to us. You can reach out to us on GitHub. You can submit policy requests, enhancements, or if you find some bugs, please go ahead and mention those bugs with us so that we can get our team on it. Also, if you haven't joined our Discord, come and join our conversation at hedera.com/Discord. And when you get there, search for Sustainability Channel. Or feel free to reach out to us directly if you have any policy request by emailing us at info@envisionblockchain.com or through our website, which is www.envisionblockchain.com. Thank you. Have a great day.